What happens when a Catholic and a mystic get together? We're bridging the gap by having taboo conversations, the things most people are curious about but rarely have.
Hello and welcome. Oh my gosh, so happy to be here. Tasha, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Do you know we just had the summer solstice and we're crossing this massive threshold right now, and then we will start oscillating back into the darkness very slowly until the winter solstice. And I feel like it's just such a magical time because we get to really journey through the light and the dark. And I think a lot of people, because we're so busy and we're so overstimulated and we have so much distracting us and we're always on a device, that we don't pay attention to what's going on up there because we're so busy looking like this.
I
And I just want
know.
to
Oh my
acknowledge the
gosh.
solstice because it's such a beautiful time.
Yeah, my daughter did a dance camp last week. So it's like all like the summer camps, and today she started VBS, which is in like churches or whatever. And you know, it's so funny, last week when I didn't know the liturgical calendar, like which one started, that's
Yep.
what the whole theme is. So you go in and today Advent is the first one. So they learned about Advent, and they today they learned about Gabriel coming to Mary to say, the message that she was going to be having a baby. So she got to learn about it. She got to make a cute little candle and stuff, which I thought was really fun, that she got to make a candle. It's like a battery lit one, but I was like, oh, so they made a little prayer candles.
Oh, I love that. And so, like,
Yeah.
we acknowledge that there is a beautiful wheel that we navigate throughout the year, and each spoke on that wheel has a really powerful purpose in our lives. And so for me, my she's actually starting college a little early, and so she starts this week actually. And
Oh my
oh,
gosh, so she
I
is
know.
starting this week.
Yes. So when she got accepted to the university, they had said that she just had to take like 2 condensed preliminary classes before
Yeah.
she starts her fall semester in August. So luckily both of them are online, so she doesn't have to be running all around, because we were very surprised when she got her acceptance letter and they were like, "Yes, but you need to start in June." And it was like she just graduated in May. So we were like, "Oh my
I
God."
started early. I went in, I think, the end of June when I started school.
Okay.
I was like,
So
"Get me
yeah,
out of here. I'm out."
we did not anticipate that. So it's just been like a lot of scrambling to get her ready, but she is ready. She starts this week. And so, like I said, I feel like we're crossing this really beautiful threshold right now. And
Yeah,
there's
we'll be
just
launching the podcast. A lot of new things.
so many new things. And so I feel really excited about the topic that we have for today, because you know that this is something that is very, very, very near and dear to my heart. And I feel like it's very near and dear to your heart as well. Um, we're going to be talking about our spiritual gifts. And that's a big
Yeah.
deal, because I know that from my own experiences, there is just like so much controversy around spiritual gifts, what they are, who has them, what they mean, how we're allowed to utilize them. If somebody is utilizing them in particular ways that some people don't agree with, then they interpret it as like dark and evil. And so I really just want to have this really powerful conversation so that we can eliminate a lot of confusion. And I think that's what's so great about this particular podcast, is that we have like this raw truth, this honesty. I don't have any fear of exposure or vulnerability here at all. I just want to talk about the things that are important, because there's so many people out there that embody their spiritual gifts, but also feel like they are ashamed of their spiritual gifts because people have told them they're going to hell because they have spiritual
Yeah.
gifts. So I'm curious, like, what do you think about that? Especially like, so I'm the mystic of this duet, right? Like I'm much more mystical in my practice. I don't have a particular religion I align with. I love Christian mysticism. I love Jewish mysticism. I have studied Hinduism and just like cultures all around the world, really. And I have found so many beautiful things in all of these cultures. But particularly with Christianity, I have been fear-mongered. I have been shamed. I have basically been told by people that I'm going to hell, that I am conspiring with the devil, that I'm channeling demons. And I'm just really sick of this because spiritual
Yeah.
gifts are in the New Testament, and spiritual gifts are talked about in the book of Corinthians. So as
Yeah.
a Christian, as a
Right,
Catholic,
Paul. a- And I wonder if that was a lot of them trying to get pagans to convert to Catholicism when Paul wrote all these letters to the Corinthians and, the Ephesians and all these different things, that kind of when he was like forming the church. But it's funny because I think I've told you when I sent you the one on Pentecost, in our Bible, it says spiritual gifts, but then when I looked at some of the Protestant Bibles, spiritual is taken out of it. And I was actually listening to a really good podcast this past weekend that talked about spiritual gifts, and there's like a huge list. There's like 15. So like
uh
everyone thinks spiritual gifts is just like if you are psychic or you're a medium or you prophesize, but there's actually a lot more spiritual gifts. It just means it's from God. Like that's it. And so some people have, like, I guess like one of the spiritual gifts is like of speech, like being able to
yes,
speak. And a lot of times people go up there and they'll just say this whole speech and they don't even like have anything written. And really that's like God speaking through. And that's what priests do when they do the homily. A lot of them probably write it out really, but a lot of times it's just bullet notes, and they just kind of like, before the homily, they kind of pray like, God, let your words speak through me. And that is just the same as somebody who just is, a medium or psychic. It's just coming from, I guess, like a different place of what's acceptable or not acceptable. But there's like 15 spiritual gifts. Some is charity. That's supposed to be a spiritual gift. Like people who just have this wanting to just give to people. So, um, I
well,
don't
and the
know. I
same
mean, there's a
time,
lot. There's also there's something in Romans that talks about spiritual gifts, and then yeah, Corinthians. So it's in the Bible, and it's so funny because you look back. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I love the Passion of the Christ, like the Mel
yeah,
Gibson version, right? And
yeah,
so they say that they killed him for witchcraft and being a sorcery. And it's just interesting to me that every time I watch it, I just think how many Christians today would have just followed what the church leaders said and just would be right along being like, they're a witch, crucify him, he's doing sorcery, I mean, they literally say he was doing works of the devil. That's literally what the Jews accused him of. And to watch it now, every time I watch it, that is always kind of what comes to mind is with spiritual gifts is, would you have just, if you think that way, I have a hard time not in my mind. I don't say it, I don't speak to it, but in my mind being like, and you would have been one of the ones that crucified Jesus. You would have been the ones
yeah.
yelling, crucify him, right
Right.
along. And it kind of seems very hypocritical, I guess.
It is because
Yeah.
um in John, he says, "You can do all I can do and more." And when I
Yeah.
read that, that I'm not like this, I'm not a Bible person, but I do read to to learn certain things because I think so much has been taken out of context and so much is subjective. And so me as just kind of like this mystic philosopher, um this channel, all of these different things, it's like, well, let me get a feel for this because I am not a man, but I do not think I have to be a man to understand the word of God. And I do not think I have to be a man to be able to channel that energy through my body. And I have found that it is much easier for the vessel of a female to be a channel of God's wisdom than it is for a male to be a channel of God's wisdom. The way that we hold our energy is very different. And the way that we
Yeah.
can alchemize things is very different. And, when we look at the difference of what was said in Deuteronomy, you know how I feel about this, versus what was said in Corinthians. I was literally just talking to my daughters about this because
Yeah,
I
but that's
had my.
Old Testament versus New Testament. And
So,
I'm a New
so tell
Testament
everybody
girly.
why. Tell everybody why what is said there doesn't need to be applied to what we're doing today, because a man came into this world, died, and that kind of eliminated some of those laws, did it not?
I mean, there was many things that Jesus came and contradicted that were in the, the Old Testament. There's just, uh, it was, I feel like the Old Testament and the religion is more rule based, whereas the New Testament is more, um, I would say, is more of like the feeling, right? And I think, I don't know, maybe God was like, oh, I'm going to give all these people these rules because I want them to follow my rules. And then he gave all the rules. And then, he also gave us free will. And it was like, oh man, I think they took it a little too far. I didn't tell them the mystical parts of it and like the spiritual parts of things. And so I think that's why Jesus kind of had to come to really give us, um, like, hold on, this is right. This is like, okay, yeah. And he really messed with a lot of the old teachings and that, that's why they killed him. They told him, like, if you don't stop this, they're gonna kill you. And he was like, if no one's watched The Chosen, my favorite part is where he's like, I'm gonna have to use the law of Moses against you. And he was like, I am the law of Moses. And every time I get chills watching that scene.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh my God, so great. Flipping the
Well,
table, all the things. There's just so many like great moments I think Jesus had that really contradict the Old Testament.
but I wanted to mention one thing because I did take my Bible out, which is why I started this conversation with my children a couple hours ago. In the book of Romans, in chapter 10, verse 4, it says, Christ is the end of the law so that there may be righteousness for everyone who believes.
Yeah.
And so I underlined it, which I do not do anything with this thing except just research. And so I underlined it because I said, I knew we were going to be talking about spiritual gifts tonight. And I knew we had talked about, like, how people have charged at me from what they have read in the Old Testament and have been incredibly cruel. And then finding out, like, there are these things in the New Testament that kind of obliterate it, because it's like, no, Jesus came. That doesn't matter anymore. That doesn't exist anymore. That law is no longer because of this person's life and what he represented. So I find that really interesting. And I wanted to bring that verse to you because I just felt like it was completely relevant. And the funny part is that I came upon it by happenstance. Like,
really?
Yes. So I knew that I had to bring it here because I was thumbing through looking for Corinthians. I stumbled upon Romans and started thumbing through that a little bit. And I found that piece right there, that verse. And I said, oh my gosh, that's the one I was supposed to find.
I love
See
it.
how it all works in very mysterious ways. But I believe that every single person on this planet was born with spiritual gifts because I believe in spirit.
They are. You just don't know. Everyone has, that's what it says. Like, everyone has a spiritual gift. I'm trying to see. There's also like Apostles, chapter 8 and the Active Apostles, where there's a story of Simon who said, like, give me also the power so that anyone whom I lay my hands on may receive the Holy Spirit. And that's where like Pentecost is. Like, they're saying, like, they say, like, oh, you can't do healing, or you can't do Reiki, or you can't do this, but like literally Simon went and said, let me put my hands on you and give you the Holy Spirit. And we do this when we get confirmation. Like, that's what confirmation is. It's getting the Holy Spirit. And so if a man can give me the Holy Spirit with, confirmation, then I don't understand the whole, like, even the fight with like with like, healing with your hands as well.
Oh, girl, let me tell you. So, I have been a Reiki master teacher for like 12, 13 years. And here's the deal, though, is that when I got into Reiki, it was because I felt very inspired to heal the way Jesus healed. And that, that's not from a religious standpoint. That's from just a very mystical standpoint. I didn't even know what was said in the book of John at that time. I just knew in my, like, I don't know. But I always felt like, and you know this about me, how I've been like, I don't need an intermediary. I can channel this myself. I am the receiver of the spirit. And so I can do anything that he could do.
Yeah.
And so, but I have to believe it. And this is where I think people get really all messed up about it. The person who founded Reiki, a Japanese Christian monk,
I remember that. Yeah.
okay? It's like people have asked about Reiki before, and then I would say, oh, it's the laying on of hands, it's healing through hands, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, that's not in my religion. And I'm like, what's your religion? Oh, I'm Christian. I'm like, this has nothing to do with your religion. This was a Christian monk who went through this whole process, and they don't even want to know what the process was. They just have this
don't.
automatic belief that it is evil. It is a trap by the devil. I am the basically consort of that entity, and I am going to hurt them because I'm going to channel evil into them, because I cannot do what Jesus did. And it usually stems from Old Testament beliefs, though. And
Yeah.
Reiki, and let me tell you, I have helped.
Oh, that Old Testament.
Here's the deal. And this is what I want our audience and everybody else in the world to really consider before they make up their mind about this. If the work that you are doing is improving people's lives because you have helped them find something they couldn't find, you helped them locate something within themselves that was lost, you helped clear something away from their energetic field that they couldn't do on their own. Just so many different things that you are giving them energetically so that they can do it for themselves. And their life is growing and becoming exponentially better as a result of that. Does that sound like the work of something dark?
No, I mean, if Jesus just came and said, like, I'm the Son of God, everyone would have been like, you're crazy. Like, he had to do the spiritual gifts. He had to do the miracles. He had to have his disciples also do the miracles. And even though the 12 disciples went out, it was actually 72 people of his followers that went out and performed these miracals.
And how many were
And they were
women?
like shocked, like, oh my God, I healed this person. Oh my God, I made this person no longer blind. I made this person, like, I mean, they didn't bring anyone back from the dead, but like they did a lot of the things that he did. But without those spiritual gifts, no one would have ever believed he was the Son of God. Nobody.
Right.
And even with all of those gifts that he performed in the miracles, there were still people who widely doubted him.
Were
So
offended by him. And that is one
yeah.
of the things that I have seen for myself is like people literally just being offended that I say what I say, that I believe in what I believe in, that I do what I do. And so I really want to inspire those who have felt like I have these gifts and I feel like I can't hone them, I can't practice them, I can't work with them because I would be offending a family member, I would be offending God, I would be offending my church. There's a lot of fear around that. And I grew up with that as well, feeling like my father is a born again Protestant. And so my father, who I love dearly, but just has a very different lens on this whole situation. It's like, he believes that he believes everything in the Bible, literally, like everything that is written. But what I
Well, funny, it's interesting. How can you believe everything that's written when there's so many things that contradict each other?
Exactly. And how many times it was translated, first
I
of
mean,
all,
even in the Gospels, you have to say, like, well, this is John's account, and this was, and then there's like Simon's account, and there was Mary Magdalene's account, and then, Matthew's account, which is funny because I always say John because I'm like, listen, first off, Matthew wasn't even there. John was there.
So how did Matthew get
Like,
a gospel?
Mark and Luke, that was like passed down stories. Like that was, it was learned or whatever. The only one that was there that made it in the Bible was John. And they'll be like, "No, this didn't happen this way." And they're like, "Oh no, this one he got stabbed in the chest. This one doesn't say he got stabbed in the chest. This one said this was his last word. This one said this was his last word." So how can you say you believe everything in the Bible when there's so many just contradicting stories just even in the Bible itself?
Well, and they take out words that they don't like. They change words that they don't like. And it
Yeah.
has been redone like hundreds of times throughout
Yeah.
history from different
Translations.
different translations with different languages. And I want to point out really quick that with the Old Testament being Aramaic and Hebrew, translating that to English is a very, very, very difficult task.
Yeah.
Translating the New Testament from Greek, really a difficult task because they have like all these different words that are
That we don't
feminine,
have.
masculine, have a neutrality to them. They have all of these different words for love. They have, all of these different words and ways of saying these words. Like I was reading something about like with Peter being the rock. Well, in the New Testament, it is in Greek and they couldn't determine if rock actually meant like a solid rock foundation or if it meant a small pebble. And because it could be utilized in both ways. Now, I have a lot of feelings about Peter, to be
I know.
completely
We
honest.
both do.
Yeah.
We both
And
do.
so
And we're
I
going to get to Mary Magdalene in a
yeah.
couple episodes. But we'll
I
save him
don't
for that one. I have a not I would say it's a love-hate relationship with Peter. So I do love him, and I think some of his thoughts was in protection in the sense because and just real quick is that if Peter denied Jesus 3 times to save himself, back then they would have never listened to Mary. And I think a part of it was, oh, they're going to kill her. And maybe a part of me wants to think that Peter did a lot of those things to kind of protect Mary. Because we'll talk, we're going to talk about it, but we both think that that Jesus and her were married. And, if you kill the husband, you're going to end up killing the wife. And my ears are ringing now.
Ooh, that's a sign.
Yeah,
That
my
is a
left ear is
sign.
ringing, which usually it's my right ear. I don't
So
know what the
I just
difference
want to
is.
point out really quick, when your ears are ringing, for anybody who in the audience has experienced what would most in the medical community would call tinnitus, it is not always a medical condition. Just like we talked about, I think in the last episode when you talked about going to the eye doctor and the optical
Yeah,
phenomena,
the
right? And
optical phenomenon.
the ear ringing there is a high frequency coming into your energetic
And then
field.
my little Mary Magdalene. It's probably why
Mhm.
she's right there. Renee got me this Mary Magdalene statue, little like trinket, and it's probably why because she's on that side.
Yes. And so it's like they have to readjust their frequency to enter into your field. And your field is just basically like your auric field. Everybody has
Yeah.
one. It's an electromagnetic field that is all around all of us. And typically for me, like I always feel like it's an angelic being. I'll get like this very high pitch in like my right or left ear. Sometimes I get it in both. When it happens like that, it almost like stops me in my tracks. It's like deafening. So that is a
Yeah,
sign that
so I was like, oh,
yep, spirit is
so
with
funny.
you.
Yeah.
So we in our upcoming episodes, we're going to talk about, the issues with Peter, the issues with Mary Magdalene that he had with Mary Magdalene, the rock, the tower, all of these things.
The
But for
tower. They
now,
don't even know about the tower.
yeah,
Some people I think know about the tower, but we'll get
let,
there.
let's discuss like, how do we know if we have spiritual gifts? Because it does explain in a lot of different spiritual texts about these gifts, what they are, right?
Yeah.
The gift of speaking in tongues, I believe, is actually light language. I believe it is the light language of the angels and the highest realms of consciousness, of the highest dimensions. I do believe that we can absolutely channel it, and I have. I've just not had it on a recording. And so
Yeah.
it comes through in a very, very particular way, but it's not necessarily like you're speaking Hebrew. You know what I mean? You're speaking in tongues. It makes no sense. It just flows through your body. But some of the other,
When I was a child, I used to speak in tongues a lot. When you
well,
like make up your own.
yeah, but you know what? That's the thing. I was
Oh my
talking,
god, my dad would be like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "It's our own language." I'm
I'm
like,
talking to light people. You're speaking in tongues. We have like no filter as children. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're in a completely different brainwave state as well, which is typically theta up until we're about 10 years old, and then it starts shifting. But if you are in a theta brainwave state throughout your entire childhood, that means that the energy flowing in and out of your consciousness has no barriers to it. Because
Yeah.
theta state, in case anybody doesn't know, basically is like a very deep meditative state where you are basically almost in like a twilight, you know?
Hmm.
And so it means that everything just kind of blends, which is why we're so friggin' wounded from our childhoods, right? Because
Yeah.
we absorb everything in our environment. But I also think that makes us really powerful seers and hearers. Like we can hear, we can see, we can feel, we know things, right?
Yeah. Huh.
It's pretty
That's
crazy, right?
wild.
Yeah.
I know.
So what I love to explain to people when we're discovering our spiritual gifts, because I've taught many classes about this, it's really like we break it down into the clairs. And I hate to introduce a whole new language to everybody, but the clairs are important because they help you understand how the information of spirit wants to come through. And so we can hear, which would be clairaudient. We can see, which would be clairvoyant. We can sense, which is clairsentience. And we can just know things, which is claircognizance. And I feel like that's probably where you started really figuring things out, right? Like, I think you just started having a lot of really strong knowings.
Yeah, so my first experience is not a good one. I mean, I feel like when I was young, I always had those different things, but I think it's different when you like get the validation. And so when I would always like say things and they kind of happen. But when I was 21, I started having these like I want to say dreams, but they're also visions and but they felt so real that my sister was going to pass away. And I'll never forget that there were two girls and I think it was like in Coco or Vieira who had gotten in a car accident and passed.
Mm.
And I remember reading it in the paper and back when there was newspapers.
How far are
But
you
and, like,
going back?
I mean, this is
How
back
old
when,
are
like,
you,
Facebook, you
Tasha?
had to be invited, and I was on Facebook, because my college was approved, but so it wasn't really social media, it was, like, MySpace and everything. But I saw the paper, and I just kind of got this, like, vision, and then I kinda started having dreams leading up, and I took my sister to my 16-year-old sister at the time, to a FSU, UF game. We went to, go hang out. And on the ride there, I told her that I have this vision of you in the paper, that you die, and there's two other people. And I never forget, she was like, "Oh my God, you're so stupid annoying." At this time, my sister was really getting into partying a lot. I was just turned 21. So I had partied with my sister far before. And about 6 weeks later, I'll never forget, it was New Year's Eve, and she'd called me. She's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm right down the street. And I'll never forget that everything like slowed down for just like a little bit. And I'm looking at all my friends and I just wanted to leave. Like for some reason, like it was so weird. And I don't know what that is where things just slow down, but it was like everything was moving very slow. And I texted her and I was like, "Hey, why don't you come pick me up? I want to go home." So, and I didn't even live at my parents' house at the time. I lived beachside. And so she came and got me, and that was, like, our last time we were, like, really alone together, and then that next Friday, it was the 2 days before her birthday, she called me at work, and she's, "Oh, mom's going out, and dad said we could have some people over, and so, come over," and I was like, "Okay," so I went to my dad's, and that night, I'm sitting there, and, it wasn't really a crazy night or anything, I'm sitting there hanging out with my friends before they go out to college, and again, it, like, slowed down, and I was like, "I gotta get out of here." And so I looked at my girlfriend, I was like, "Hey, listen, like, let's go." But before that, me and my sister were, um we were playing a game and told her, I was like, it's really bad luck to celebrate your birthday before your birthday. And she was like, "So what, am I gonna die now?" And I was like, "I don't know, that's what they say." And so before I left, I said bye to her. We took up, she's like, "Oh, let's take a picture." She gave me a kiss on the cheek. I left. About almost 2 in the morning, I realized I forgot my dog there. And I was like, "Oh, I'll just go get him." And my friend was like, "No, no, no, don't worry. He's here." Just, 'cause my best friend was still there. And the next morning I got woken up to banging on the door, my friends walking in my bedroom and told me that my sister had died.
Oh my God.
And for about 2 months, I had light bulbs burning out left and right. I heard voices. I could smell the funeral home. Um, we had angels coming into our house, opening and shutting doors. I mean, we could go on a whole podcast just on that whole thing, but it was really, like, everyone thought I was going crazy because I actually, like, was in my mind, like, how and I told, like, my dad, my stepmom, my sister, her. I have told everyone, like, "She's gonna die. She's gonna die." Like, I was panicking, and nobody believed me, and then it happened, and I remember walking in the door and them just looking at, like, "How did you know?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And I wish I could say that was the first and only time that I've predicted or said that someone was gonna die, literally right before it happened, but every time things slow down, I know, and when I try to get myself out of a situation, that's usually what I'm like, "All right, not something bad's gonna happen," and I don't know why it happens that way, I don't know what the slowdown thing is, but it's always, like, little scary. So it's
Yeah.
not something I wanted, and for a long time after that, I very much was like, "I don't want this. I want nothing to do with this," and that's when, you start drinking more and, using other things so that way you can kind of, like, tone the voices and the things out, like, but I don't know. Any
Well,
insight?
I I know the story about your sister. I'm really grateful that you're sharing it with our audience and our people because it's a very profound thing. Like, profound is not even a good enough word. It's just not. I don't know if there is a good enough word to describe what you went through. And then also, on top of it, I will say that having spiritual gifts isn't easy. Like we've seen TV shows and movies where it is glamorized, and honestly, like I didn't think I was a psychic medium. I don't even like that term psychic medium, because I think it
I know.
it it's like so it's just a little too vague for what I do and who I am, and then other people kind of get caught in that net that I don't want in that net with me. But I feel like we don't truly understand what it means because of the way that it's glamorized and sensationalized on television. So when I was young, I was like, there's no way I'm a medium. I was having spiritual experiences. I was having experiences with spirit, but because I wasn't like Oda Mae Brown from Ghost. I was like, no,
You're like,
no.
"You in trouble, girl."
Right? And now I'm like, holy shit, I'm like Oda Mae Brown from Ghost. Oh my gosh, because I do have spirit just pop in. I do see faces, I do hear names, I do feel things. And I think that in the world of like religion or Christianity, like maybe sometimes they have a really hard time understanding the fact that, well, I personally, as a mystic, do not believe that heaven is a separate place that we go to. I believe that we create heaven where we are, or we create hell where we
Yeah.
are. And we can go into that realm, but I don't think that it's like, oh, um, Tasha's sister went to heaven, and then she's never going to hear from her until she meets her in heaven. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
Tasha's
well,
sister
so
is
it's
in
actually
heaven.
funny you bring that up because I have 2 encounters since my sister's passed with heaven. The first one, I had this dream, and it was like I kept having dreams of her after, and I would see her face and everything, but she was avoiding me. The first time I actually like got her down, I was like, "Listen, like, what is going up? Why are you ignoring me?" And she was just like, "I'm sorry." She was like, I never felt so much pain in my life, and I just had to let go." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I was like, first, I was like, she's like, "So, any other questions?" I'm like, "What's heaven like?" And she was like, "It's like being inside but outside." And it has a she was showing me like a fog in the morning, like when it's like spring, like and like there's like the dew and it's like kind of foggy. She's like, "It looks like this all the time." And
And
then
that's
the second time I had that was when I got my wisdom teeth pulled. I was in a field that was pretty much kind of very close, similar with like flowers and stuff. And I loved it. And I was like, as soon as I came out, I was like, I was with my sister. Can I go back? Like, what was that stuff? Like, of course, I'm like, can I buy that? Like, what do I got to do? Like, it was probably the closest to heaven I've felt as my own. And that was like the only question I had for my sister was, what was heaven like?
It's like a
But that was
mirror.
what the two
Yeah.
visions I both had. But you know, they were dreams. I don't know how accurate they
Well,
are.
I mean, we've done mediumship together. And
Yeah.
so it's like, I feel when people pass and they cross over, they just leave the vessel. You know, I don't think there's pearly gates. I don't think St. Peter is like waiting to check off things. I do think that they meet with their council, their light council. I think that we have guides, and you can have loved ones that have crossed over as part of that. You can have saints who are part of that, angels who are part of that, but beings who have graduated past human incarnation who are supporting our journey and helping us move things along. And it's just another realm. It's just another dimension of
Yeah.
existence where it's like, what a gift. We're so hard on our bodies. And it's like, this right here, this beautiful vessel, some people call it a meat suit. I'm like, this is so beautiful. You know why? Because I would never be able to allow my soul and my heart and my mind to express itself without this. I would like,
Yeah.
I'm not here without this. I am in the ether. I am in the in between. I am in some other realm of existence, but not physical, not tangible. And so we as physical, tangible beings still have a connection to spirit because we are spirit inherently. And when this
Yeah.
vessel is done, we will move back into the spirit realm where we came from and where we go back in each incarnation. And so I do like, there is a difference of what, you know, is in Catholicism versus I think what, you know, I believe in mysticism
Yeah, I
is
mean,
like,
we have like purgatory, which
right.
I envision like purgatory is kind of like a somber, like it's not hell and dark and or cold or you know I think they say there's like the 7 layers of hell, but I feel like it's just like kind of like a melancholy place. It's not happy. You know, probably don't like cross over and feel joy, but you kind of also don't feel maybe like sadness or you know, maybe the anxieties that you felt in, like, human life. I think it's just, like, you're kinda just like, I don't know, just, like, meh.
Well, I think, could it be though also that like they are not, I don't know. I've helped souls cross over that they weren't, it's not like, oh, they didn't repent. Oh, they're just these sinful people and they weren't baptized and they didn't make their confirmation and they, you know, they got a divorce or they had an abortion and then they go to purgatory. It's like I have helped souls crossed over that just didn't go to the light when it showed up. And it was
Yeah.
because they stayed behind because they thought they had to do something else. Some of them get confused. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I had one client who I'm doing a reading for her on Zoom and she was like, "Can I ask you something really quick? I know that there's a spirit in this house and I feel like he's very angry and I feel like he wants to hurt me." And I'm like, "Oh shit, like we got to we got to figure this out now." So I'm like, "All right,
Yeah.
let me just like tap into this." What did I see was this old man, just like he looked to me like he had really bad dementia or Alzheimer's. Like he was
Yeah.
just kind of staggering throughout her house and like an old man just kind of barely lifting
Just like
his
my
feet
house.
up, just dragging himself along. And he was very slumped over and kind of droopy and but he wasn't angry, he wasn't mad, he wasn't mean, and he was not trying to hurt her. What was happening was he was looking for his wife. And
Aw.
it was, girl, can I just tell you that when I did this, like, I do not claim to, oh, I cross souls over, but I do know how to help them find their way to where they're going. And that's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm just a guide. And so it was like, and she told me, she goes, every time I go in the kitchen, I hear that song At Last by Etta James.
Oh, I love that
Yep.
song.
So And because I had told her, I was like, he is not mean. He's not aggressive at all. He's lost. And I think he has like really bad dementia. Like he died and he had dementia and he never was able to like clear that from his body. And so he's still kind of wandering around with dementia. And she's like,
Yeah.
and I was like, and he's looking for his wife. And she was like, oh my
Well, a
gosh.
lot of times they don't want to leave their home, because that was what happened with my sister. Was a couple weeks after she passed, I'm playing this video for my parents of her on YouTube, and the front door opens and shuts, and my dad's like, oh, like at this time my girlfriend was living with my family, which was crazy. I didn't live there, but she lived there. He's like, oh, it must be Sabrina. And he goes, she probably doesn't know you're here. So he went in and he was like, there's no one in here, but the door's like shut. And so about, I guess a couple months went by, and we ended up getting contact from some psychic in Scotland. She didn't know us. She just said, like, your daughter will not leave me alone. And she said she won't leave her bedroom, and the angels walked in your house, but they can't get past her ashes in the front of the house. So they left, but she like won't leave her room. She was being a stubborn teenager. Like, I'm not leaving. I'm staying here. I'm not going anywhere. And yeah, the angels try to walk in, and it was so crazy because it was like, again, not big on social media. So you didn't put everything on social like you do now. You like document your life. But like, how would you have known that our front door opened and shut and it slammed? And how would you know that there's ashes in the front? Like, how would you know that? She said, oh yeah, this girl's been talking to me and I finally found you. And she had to keep going through these, like, she died. She like, she knew she died in a motorcycle accident. She knew she lived in Florida, so she knew it was around like the beginning of the year. So then she just looked and found the newspaper, like obviously all the news about it, and then she contacted us. And she's a person who would help like police and stuff in like Scotland or in the UK find missing people. So she knew how to like investigate, I guess. But it was crazy because like, yeah, she was like, she's being a very stubborn 16-year-old who does not want to leave her room.
So, question, do you feel, based on your faith, do you feel like your sister was caught in purgatory? Like, would that be your version in your religion's purgatory?
Yeah, so I do think that there is a period of time where, it depends. I feel like my grandma, nothing happened after she passed. Like, she was probably like, peace. Like, everyone she knew was already passed on. She was just ready.
Yeah.
But I think like I've seen a few ghosts, not just spirits, but actual ghosts, she being one of them. Another one was my high school sweetheart's brother, and both of them were in the same week that they passed. Not the same week at the same time, but different years. But both of them I saw, and I think that there is a part where if somebody dies tragically, they hang around. The psychic also said she's gonna show herself to one of you, and that's when she's gonna go pass on, like cross over.
Yeah.
Everyone knew it was gonna be me. It was me. It scared the living out of me. Was not ready, and then I was mad because I anticipated it for obviously months, and then when it happened, I was like, no, 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 I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. But she did not have a happy face, but she also didn't have like a mad face. Like, if you've seen the house on Haunted Hill, I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
There's a part where the brother walks into the apartment and his sister is standing in the room, and he's like, what are you doing here? And then he goes on his like getting something, just things that she's just, I guess, broken his house. And then he gets a phone call and he learns his sister died, and she's like, it's like, no, she's right here. And he turns around and she's not there.
Yeah.
So, but what she looked like just standing there, like watching, was what my sister looked like. It wasn't like happy or evil. It was just like standing there. It was weird.
Well, I will tell you that she was not okay with what happened.
Oh, of course not. No.
Did
Yeah,
not.
she told me. She was like,
Well, they like
she's like, I tried so hard. Tasha, she's like, it was the worst pain I ever felt my whole life. She's like, so I figured I'll just pass in front of the Taco Bell, because that was like her favorite restaurant. She goes, so yeah, died in front of the Taco Bell on Malabar Road. I was like, okay.
Oh my
I
gosh.
remember
Oh,
waking up hysterical. Imagine me hysterically crying, hyperventilating, trying to explain that my sister died in front of a Taco Bell.
right.
Now I laugh about it. I'm
Yeah.
like,
But that's the thing. Like, is it okay for you to acknowledge the gifts that you have and also be, identify as Catholic? Because we've talked about the fact that we have these loosey-goosey Catholics, right? These loosey-goosey Christians where it's like they kind of
yeah,
take what rules they want, they leave the others. I'm not into rules. I'm like the
yeah.
anti-rule person, which is why I don't do religion, because I'm like, I'm a feather on the wind. I love direct experience of godliness and all things that are sacred, but no rules for me. With you, but you have rules. Catholicism has a lot of rules.
Yeah, but I wasn't Catholic when I had them. Like when I first had them, I only became Catholic like 10 years ago. But I think the difference is for if you're seeking, I feel like I was given spiritual gifts, right? It
Hmm.
wasn't something I asked for. It wasn't something I seeked out. And what I think, and the Catholic Church actually looked this up a little while ago. Of the Catholic Church actually doesn't. A lot of faiths, and mostly Protestant, just deny their existence. Right? Catholic Church does not deny the existence, and they actually you have used psychics and mediums and things like that when it comes to assisting in exorcisms and different things like that. But the thing is that it's why you're having the gifts. If you're using it in a good, godly way and you're realizing these come from God, and I'll give you an example. There is the one guy on TikTok, Brandon, I don't remember his last name, but he was the one who actually predicted that like Donald Trump was going to get hit in the ear and survive. He has a million Protestant a huge evangelical following, and to them, he's a prophet because he's prophetizing.
Oh,
But
you
that's
just said the
okay.
funniest thing I ever
It,
heard.
I mean, he really did predict it. He really was like, dude, I have this vision. He gets hit in the ear, and then that was like the thing that happened that let people know, like, oh. So I think it's like one of those things, like if you don't have spiritual gifts that are natural, because everyone's spiritual gifts are different, and you're like, well, I want to seek it out. I think it's the seeking out is where you might get yourself in trouble, where like you could be like, oh, I want to be a medium, I want
Right.
to do this, and you might be talking to the wrong side. And
Yes.
so I think that's where people get in trouble. And anytime you do any kind of spell, you do Ouija boards. I don't do Ouija boards. I'm not touching a freaking Ouija board. Absolutely not. Not gonna happen. I think they're great. I have Ouija board shirts. I like the lore of a Ouija board, but I'm not touching a Ouija board because I'm not opening that door. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm strong enough to close the door once it's opened. And I don't want to have to go to a priest and be like,
I'll close your door,
I did
honey.
something wrong and I shouldn't have, and now I got some crazy demon in my house, that kind of whole thing. So I think it's one of those things that I think you have to find out what your own spiritual gifts are. And I did look up, there's 15 of them, but I think you can't force yourself to have a gift that maybe wasn't given to you. So my gift
Yes.
was given to me. I did get it from my grandmother, who also predicted the death of her sibling and said, I have to call, I can't remember, I think maybe it was Al, I don't remember his name, but she was like, I have to call so and so out of nowhere. And they were all like, heard a bunch of I think that like the family was kind of together, but he wasn't there. And she's like, I have to call him. And then like she was freaking out over it. And they're like, oh, just let it go. And then an hour later, they called and told everybody that he had passed. And she like knew. So I think I think it's different when it's given to you. I don't try to seek out messages and stuff as much. I just try to let them come naturally.
Yeah. And I will say that there is definitely a lot of validity to that because I have cleared a lot of junk off of people where they did not have the proper protective mechanism and like just establishing through intention. And this is what I have found to be very typical of the average person is that they don't have a very strong willpower. They don't have intent. They don't even know what they're intending. They just want to play and they want to explore. And that is a
Right.
beautiful way to open up your energy to
That's a beautiful way
it's a
to
beautiful
get a
way
demon.
to get yourself an attachment. And it can be a demon,
Yeah.
it can be other kinds of entities, because this universe is so vast. And I have cleared things that looked like octopus, spiders.
Oh,
I've cleared
my
things.
Tasmanian devil from
Yep,
my
you had the
mom.
Tasmanian devil, and that was not your mom, by the
And
way.
I didn't ask for that thing.
No. And so, like, there are also thought forms that are created through consciousness. And that was what actually manifested through your mom. And so Tasha's mom is in spirit. There was this entity. When I tapped in, I saw a Tasmanian devil. I knew nothing about Tasha's mother. And she told me when I tapped in and saw it that your mom loved the Tasmanian devil, which is just like
every time we go to
really
Ocean
creepy.
City, she would get a Tasmanian devil little like back when they like I don't know like tattoo thing, and then spray hairspray, and she'd keep spraying hairspray on it. She'd get it on her ankle every time. Like it was soon as you said it, I was like, that freaking woman gave me a freaking attachment. I knew it. I was so. But you know what? It's probably my fault as a Catholic. My mom's ashes are sitting right in my living room.
Well, we will bless them then but I will say, and we have to wrap up with the actual thing that when you talk to your sister, because I want our audience to know what happened here. But when I tapped in, I saw a Tasmanian devil. You validated your mom actually really liked Tasmanian devils.
Oh yeah.
What I felt was that this was not Tasha's mom and it was not a demonic entity. What I really connected to was the fact that your mom had created a conscious thought form that manifested into that through her own suffering, through her own anxiety, through her own, like just everything that she dealt with as a human that she was rejecting. And it manifested as a thought form consciousness into this being that had been poking at you and really like messing with
because I reached out to you. That's why this whole podcast started, because I text you. I'm like, listen, something is not right. Every time something good happens, something equally bad happens. It is not, it's just, I don't know what to do. Like I lost my job. It took me like a year and a half to get a new job. Literally within 2 weeks of you getting rid of it, I got a new job. And that night, I never even told my sister about this thing. And that next day, my sister called me and she said she woke up crying because she had this dream that my mom, which was the first dream either of us have ever had, and she died 10 years ago this year, actually. It was 10 years. Or maybe it's 11 years this year. Anyways, and she was like, Mom hugged me and was like, and she looked great, and she hugged me and she says, I'm going to heaven. And I was like, oh my gosh. I told her about the Tasmanian devil. I told her how you cleared it. Like, you cleared this thing. And I'm like, I know this sounds crazy, but apparently there's this Tasmanian devil thing that Mom was like lingering, or I don't know. And I was like, she just got rid of this thing literally yesterday afternoon.
It was like
crazy.
It was like a ball and chain that wouldn't let her go on. You know what I'm saying? It was like a manifestation of her suffering that anchored her into a dimension she couldn't get out of to move on to the next. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then it was like, I didn't have to really do anything with your mom. It was just connecting with this thing and being like, you need to go. And this is not your home, and this is not where you belong, and not do this.
I don't think you don't go to heaven because you didn't get your sacraments or anything. I don't think that's what leads to it. I think that it's more of the values when you are in of the sacraments. And this, I guess, on a Catholic level, I'll say is that I think if you get baptized and you get communion and you get confirmed and you go to church and you do confession, I think it's just a soul healing thing that happens that doesn't happen more when people aren't attending a church or aren't doing spiritual soul healing throughout their life. I don't think you have to be Catholic necessarily. I think you could be very spiritual, or someone can be Buddhist or whatever. But I think people who don't do any sort of spiritual work while they're in this life, or don't go to church, or don't look to the higher power. My mom was an alcoholic. When she passed, she was drinking a 750 milliliter vodka straight
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah.
Obviously, she was not gonna just go to heaven off rip. Like, she wasn't gonna cross over and like, that's it. Like, there was, I think, probably 10 years of soul healing and praying for her soul and things that happened to, 'cause she probably had a lot of guilt. And that
Yes.
she couldn't just like let go of. And so I think that's why it's always important that, Catholics or anyone prays for anyone who's passed on that, they might have gone to heaven, but they might not have. And praying for them that they find the forgiveness, they give themselves grace, that they can forgive themselves, I think is something that needs to happen. But yeah, she was not not going.
But the beautiful thing is that she is gone now. And she is,
I
and she's in
know.
such a, and
And I'm
she's
glad
in,
it happened to my sister because I think I had so many with like my sister, like with Cassidy, and I think there was a little bit of resentments from definitely from my stepmom, that I was the one that got to see her, that I was the one having the dreams, that I was the one who knew she was going to pass. Like, I think there was a little bit of resentments where, I think me and her probably are more of a in the same spiritual family. And so I'm glad it happened for my sister. Also when my sister got married, there was orbs and I felt like it was my mom,
Mhm.
more than I thought it would be my sister. And so I was glad it happened for her. I think it was important for her to have that moment and dream.
third eye activation, like that's what basically you're seeing with is your third eye is open. And I'll have to check in scripture to see if Jesus talks about this anywhere. But I prefer to look in the non-canonicals. I prefer to look at the pieces that haven't been so heavily scrutinized because I think that he has such a beautiful voice in them. And one of the books I really, really want to get into, and maybe we will during, this podcast, is Jesus and the Essenes by Dolores Cannon. And I think I mentioned it
Mm.
briefly in our last episode because Dolores Cannon was a really, 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 really powerful channel. And she's deceased now, but she spent years and years and years as a divine channel. She channeled this entire book from the perspective of a follower, and
Mm.
witnessing what Jesus was doing in the caves and his teachings and the mysticism
Oh
and
wow.
metaphysics that were brought into his teachings in the caves with the Essenes, something that is not in canonical scripture. And I dare say they don't want it there because
Yeah.
it would free humans from needing the intermediate. I do think that there is validity to having a church community and a church congregation and a place for people to share and worship and sing and preach and whatever it is that people enjoy about church. But they're not teaching what Jesus taught. And when you have 5 miles of archives underneath the Vatican, one wonders what's hiding in there. And that might be
One
for
one
another
wonder.
episode.
Well, next episode we're doing is Saint Anne. We have a really fun story about like
Oh, St.
us
Anne.
from
Yep.
Saint Anne.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's gonna be the Saint Anne novena, starting July 17th. And so if you don't know who Saint Anne is, that is the grandmother of Jesus.
Actually, that'll be perfect. That'll be perfect because we'll bring in Anne. We'll bring in some of the gifts because we had an experience. So you have to stay tuned to that
Mm-hmm.
episode to find out the experience we had and how it came through, how uniquely it came through. And
Yeah.
I think that we really also want to hear from our audience that if they have particular questions, if there are things that down the road they would love for us to talk about, bring to the
Yeah.
light, have a conversation about, because I love this space because we don't share the same beliefs about everything, but we don't have to appreciate each other, to respect each other, and to find common ground. And I think that's what we're showing other people is that there's ways to go about your business, your spiritual path, your religion, all of the things that you believe so deeply within your heart and soul, but you can still share them with other people and not fear judgment and being ridiculed and being hurt or, judged in these really harsh ways, because that's not what we have time for here. We are so busy doing such great things that we don't have time for the negativity. And so even the people that want to be a part of this podcast, want to listen, want to be a part of our Patreon, want to be in our membership, want to join these things that we're going to be going deeper into, you know, there is no room for hatred. There is no room for disrespect. There is no room for fear mongering. Like anybody who comes into this space and tries to threaten or fear monger in any way, either us or any of our audience, like you're out. You're so out so freaking
Ow.
fast. It isn't even funny. I will exercise you like you have never seen before.
Like a demon. No, pun intended, actually. Pun intended. We're gonna exercise you,
Yeah, we'll
literally.
totally clear your
Yeah,
ass.
and I think yeah, if you haven't, well, I guess this will be the second episode, so maybe listen to the first one. But to make sure to join our Patreon, we're gonna have different tiers. We're gonna do probably like monthly psychic readings with Renee. We're gonna do guided meditation, prayers. We'll one of the things we're gonna do, we're actually gonna film this after, but we're gonna start doing bonus episodes about different astrological events that are going to be happening. So instead of like normal podcasts kind of say, well, this is what's going on right now, Mercury retrograde, whatever. We want all of our content to be very evergreen. So all of our bonus episodes will be more in depth of what's going on during that week. And we'll also do the same thing when it comes to different like feast days and saint days and different things like that. And then also make sure you like follow us and yeah, ask us questions. We will probably start doing where
Yeah, it's all good. I love it. I'm so excited. We have so many incredible things coming, so many things that we're going to be talking about. And it's not just about what we're talking about. There will be direct experience in this little group we have going here right now. So we're going to be channeling. There will be mediumship. There will be psychic stuff. I'm really excited about that. So Tasha, it's always a pleasure. I just love you so much. And I love the work that we're doing together. You're wonderful. Thank you for being my friend.
Of course. I love it. All right. Well, see you next week.
See you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.